McElroy and Cubelic, we've been with you. It's good to be back today. I'm in studio. Memorial over. Some rough weather for a lot, specifically in central north Alabama, also in west Tennessee, where our game was delayed for the UFL, but we got it in either way. G-Mac, how was your Memorial Day?
It was good, buddy. Yeah, weather was a little dicey, and we were getting ready to watch the UFL game and saw that it was delayed. You guys had an early start, and it wasn't to be, huh? What time did you guys end up actually getting going?
Kicked off, I think, at 2 o'clock. And got going at the same time as the Stallions game, so we went to ESPN Plus. Not ideal, not exactly what you want, but we did get the game in, and that was a positive. So I don't know if it was you'd call it a good game. It was competitive for a while. Plays 30-12. Arlington took the win. They get to 4-5. They'll try to get to 500 in the final week of the regular season coming up this weekend. So win against the Michigan Panthers, who they will face in 2 weeks in the first round of the playoffs. Both those, but obviously without their starting quarterback Bryce Purdy. How it looks for Birmingham moving forward. Yeah, we finally got it in. It was a weird to just sit at the hotel and kind of wait with lightning delays and trying to figure out if they're going to go. I'm talking to some coaches on certain staff, and they're saying we just left the stadium and then said we're going back to the stadium, and we had not been given the green light. It was just it was good, and but pretty cool either way.
Well, that was very strange because it said, and then it said 12, and then it said 2, and then it said TBD, and I was like, all right, something else. So we turned on the Stallions game for a bit, had some other stuff bouncing around. Busy weekend at the lake, had some great friends over. We've had a lot of fun, but felt like my sport weekend under the circumstances because the weather kind of forced it to be. It just stormed yesterday. Had some pockets of storms every once in a while here over the last couple of days as well on Sunday and Saturday. So got to watch a bunch. And the Stars are down 3-1 Western Conference Finals, and you're disappointed about that. You've been a big Stars fan for a while, haven't you?
Hit the music. What the puck? Hit it. Let's go.
As a first-time Dallas Stars fan, coming off your Rangers bandwagon, we're letting you down in the Western Conference Finals.
We did run that promo during our game, and I asked everybody in the commercial break what the count was on the series, and nobody seemed to know. So I'm glad you finally got us updated. Oilers up 3-1. So yeah, it's wins game. 5? Is that tonight?
Day.
Yeah. Wait a couple days before you play again. Yeah.
Yes. Extremely physical game last night. So probably best to have a couple days off.
Absolutely. I did watch a little. Disappointing last night. Pacers up 3-1, 130-121. Pacers get the win. Tonight you get T-Wolves and Thunder. So I watched a little bit of NBA. Watched a lot of Major League Baseball over the weekend. I told you last week that my 5-year-old just was dialed into the SEC baseball tournament, so we watched a decent amount of that. 6 kids under one roof when I did leave Memphis and get to Decatur. Ooh. So there's a lot of trying to play baseball outside with the kids, and we'll put it pool time. But, yeah, it was fun. Either way, it's a good Memorial Day, even though I don't think we saw it. It's the whole reason we go to Decatur. The weather kind of put a damper on that.
Gotcha. Well, I wouldn't say it too loud. I think you go to Decatur because you want to go to Decatur, your wife's hometown. You don't want to go see hot air balloons. You just love the company that you get with your family. That's.
No, it's hot air balloons, really. It's the family's great, but that's kind of the reason people go for that weekend. And it was a. Didn't say anything about it, which was great, but weather was not helping at all.
Not cooperating. Allow me to exercise a frustration for a moment. Have you been to ESPN.com this morning?
I have.
In addition, does Spike Lee play for the Knicks?
I
just out of curiosity.
He is
what has Spike Lee ever done of significance outside of attending Knicks games to enhance his own popularity?
He has talked trash to Reggie Miller in game.
Correct. Yes, and could do literally nothing Like, what has Spike Lee done for the Knicks?
Well, he antagonizes the Knicks an advantage. Therefore, he's considered part of the team.
Aha, gotcha. I'm just amazed at how often he gets screen time. When he has to do outside of just being a fan.
Viewer, if you walk down the street and ask them why they watched the Knicks game, they'll see they wanted to see what Spike Lee was wearing. They wanted on during one game. I know that sounds ridiculous, but there have been times he's worn more than one. Wanted to see if what style foam hat he might be wearing at the game.
Yep.
And then also just which player he decided to get into it verbally and during that course of that game specifically. So, yeah, he's a big part of Knicks lore.
Gotcha. Yeah. When I don't think about Jalen Brunson or Tom Thibodeau or any of these people that actually contribute to the team's success. I think about the obnoxious fan in the front row that is talking smack to professional athletes. Like, explain to me how that makes sense.
It gets the people going. And not success to talk about right now as they trail 3-1. So there's not a lot of guys that are having a lot of success to even put on the front page of ESPN.com.
Or, you can put on Halliburton. I mean, he made a 3 again and has been clutch all throughout the playoffs. Maybe we can put him on the front page. Did make
A3. So
correct.
I mean, yes. It's a fair question. I don't understand why that's what you would want to go with, but
well, it's just I don't understand why Spike Lee gets so much attention. It's just it amazes me. Like when I watch the Knicks game, it's like they show him every 15 minutes. It's like,
I think there's certain that this is just kind of what synonymous fans, celebrities with certain teams that are just always going to be shown. SEC school.
Perfect.
Whoever is having the most success at that moment in whatever town he happens to be touring to next, he's a fan of that over and over. So that's just the way that it happens. I mean,
the only other one that would make some sense to me is like Jack Nicholson sitting courtside of the Lakers, but he's not like engaging with the other team. He's purely
a few times.
With other teams?
He's there's been a couple times he's not likely, no. But I've seen him share words with the other team before, a little bit of back and forth. I want to say it was LeBron one time.
Really? I'm surprised by that. I don't show him in the same light. Like, I don't feel like if the Lakers lost, Jack Nicholson would be on the front page of the actual ESPN.com.
Who are the most synonymous sport? Like Drake, whether not Kentucky basketball
With
anymore
who?
because they're not great.
The Raptors?
Maybe he's a UConn fan now. That would be one.
Okay.
Who else do we think about? Bill
With
Murray
any
and the
sports
Cubs.
Team? Bill Murray and whoever his son is coaching. You said Turtle?
Correct.
I'm pretty sure he wore Yankees gear pretty regularly.
And Mets gear.
Yeah, but you can't do both. Pick a side, Turtle. There's not really like that NFL fan, right? Like we had Ralph of the Jets games.
Now we're talking. In serious, the next closest one I would think of would be McConaughey in Texas.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
What fans are out there that when we there? If you want to be what Spike Lee is, you have to be at the games. And like you said, Nicholson was there for a long time. He was
no doubt.
Like I'm a diehard Cubs fan, but I don't know how many Cubs a year. I'm also GN 80 times a year, so I don't really know if he's like flying in for games.
I don't think
John Cusack. Maybe he's
been there though, yeah.
Or Billy.
Oh yeah, he did it too. I guess we can count the Pope now.
John Belushi and the Bears.
Yeah, but
back in the day.
Did he like the Bears?
Oh yeah, you don't remember the clip where he's like on the sideline and he face plants.
No, I don't.
I think
but
he was having a little
like
too much
that.
fun at the game.
The Jets ever get good again, then you can go ahead and bank on there being a lot of actors and actresses that are diehard Jets fans. There's a lot.
I used to
said they're not good.
I wish they would have said Will Smith and all the Philadelphia teams, but I couldn't tell you last time I saw him at any of those games.
He's from Bel Air.
You feel like with the Eagles, how good they've been, he probably should have been. Does Ashley Judd go to Kentucky games anymore? Or has that run its course?
Question.
I think Drake took it over.
Drake did?
Kicked her out. They got to make Sweet 16s, at least.
They almost did. What? Did they almost make it this year? Or was it the year before? I can't recall.
Like, I know Vince is a hard Chicago fan, but I don't see him at a lot of games anymore.
Yeah. Around.
We did watch a new Netflix movie.
He has a new one?
With the sister-in-law and the wife. Yeah, I didn't finish it. I went to bed.
Well, I tried to watch Bad Monkey. That's his most recent series, and I just couldn't get through it. And we gave it a whirl. It was fine, but we're probably 4 or 5 episodes in. Just couldn't keep it going. But that's not a reflection on Vince Vaughn. It's just a reflection on, do I really want to sacrifice this hour of sleep for this?
It's fair.
And the answer is no. So we will hopefully get back to it. But I honestly I can't think of any now. Like, I feel like there's so many actors and actresses that are regulars at certain sporting events, but I don't know if I could think of one outside of Jack Nicholson and Spike Lee that are synonymous exclusively with one team.
I think the only other one in their neighborhood is McConaughey in Texas. That's it. I don't think and I think there were some that have been there, like Ashley Judd was there. Maybe a Bill Murray was there with some of the Chicago teams, but like I said, you have to be at the games if you're going to be this kind of fan. If you're going to be the celebrity sports fan for that team, I think you need to be there. And there's not a lot of folks that we look at and say, oh, they're at the games all the time. And I think a part of it is, Spike, a lot of what he does can be done in New York, whereas a lot of these people we're talking about usually need to be in a different part of the country than the teams they root for, so that's not as easy. But either way.
Well, if that's the case, then Taylor Swift.
And she's a Philly fan?
No, that she dates that plays for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And has been to 7 games over the last 3 years.
Yes, yeah.
All of which televised. So
that's true, but her loyalty to the Chiefs' kingdom runs thin with one Travis Kelce.
Is there missing? I feel like there's got to be 1 or 2 in college that we're not thinking of.
I'm blanking. I can't think of any. I just don't feel like college gets as much buzz as pro sports as it relates to celebrities.
No. For us, it would.
I've never seen a celebrity at a game outside of McConaughey. He's the only one.
No, Timothy Chardonnay was at the SEC championship game.
Yes, Timmy Shar.
And too, so.
Timmy Pino.
I feel like we could have thrown in, if he was still with us, would be Toby Keith in Oklahoma, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah. And he contributed to the NIL and stuff.
LeBron, Ohio.
Stop it.
What? He's been to a game or 2?
He not an Ohio State.
Letterman jacket. You can't. You're a diehard fan if they give you a Letterman jacket, or you buy one, or have.
Fandom is like Drake. Like he's a Cowboys fan. He's a Rams fan. He's a Notre Dame fan. He's an Ohio State fan. He's all over the place. Is Regis Philbin a Notre Dame fan?
Oh,
I don't know how much he was there, but
diehard. Yeah, I think in his day he had actually attended a lot of games. I don't think he'd be able to do it much anymore. No, he was diehard. Yeah, he made no. That's an uncomfortable conversation.
Yes, in 2020.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what's wild is Kelly Ripa's been on the show longer than Regis ever was.
That is insane to think about.
Really?
How many outside of her current husband and Regis?
3.
Secret.
A couple of
and Shanahan. Excuse me, Strahan. And Seacrest.
Palmer had a couple episodes. Give it a chance.
Ashton Kutcher, Iowa.
Oh, yeah. He's an Iowa fan.
Will Ferrell.
Yeah, he was good when SC was good.
USC has a lot.
That's
Yes.
true. Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Snoop.
they all show up.
Of a Drake.
No.
Snoop's allowed to be.
Snoop's
True.
No.
Snoop is a consistent Steelers fan when they're winning.
Correct. Right.
And that hasn't been the last few years. So he's on to a different team.
Now he's a Rams fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, Brad?
I think he's been at games. We've seen him.
Yeah,
Eminem, Detroit.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Tigers have the best record in baseball right now.
They do.
We should see him at one of their games soon. Who's the Notre Dame fan?
Nate
Shane
Bargatze?
Gillis?
Yeah, Bargatze.
Or
Or
Bargatze, yeah.
Shane Gillis?
Yeah.
Is Shane Gillis Notre Dame?
Yeah, didn't he say he was going to send money to their NIL and whatnot?
I don't know. I don't keep track of NIL contributions from celebrities.
Letterman, Ball State.
Really? Love
Oh,
that.
yeah, he did.
Die Hard.
Yeah.
He said die hard.
Russell in Tuscaloosa.
Yes. Still does. Saw him at the game. When they
Alabama
played.
treatment for a minute. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
T.O. showing up for games.
I'm looking at like a few. Oh,
Man,
Mark Wahlberg and all the Boston sports teams. That's an easy one. Ben Affleck and the Boston sports teams.
Tennessee.
Whew.
Is he a Tennessee guy?
Did you not see him walk out to his concert with Peyton?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying I don't know.
Lucas Smith tweets in Kevin Hart and the Eagles. Isn't Kevin Hart a little Drakish? Doesn't he move around a little bit?
Mostly, but he's still with the – well, he tried to get on stage with the Eagles won and was denied. But
I remember that. That was great. Tweets in, you may get and the Toronto Blue Jays. Geddy Lee, Damien.
oh, yeah, the dude with Nelly song.
The General's brother.
So shout
I found a website that says all the teams that are like all the celebrities that are fans of teams.
Just John Hamm and the St. Louis Blues. Is he not a fan of the Hawks?
Just the Blues.
Mizzou a little bit.
Is he? Did he go? Oh, yeah, he like went and filled out.
Yeah.
This says Predators.
Who?
Taylor Swift, Nashville Predators.
No, it's Carrie Underwood.
Owen Wilson, Vancouver Canucks. Who didn't have that one?
That was the first one we said. I don't remember it.
Justin Timberlake and the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, so he went to two games.
There was a time. I don't think that's real anymore.
Paul Rudd, Kansas City Chiefs.
Richardson, Darius Rucker, Dolphins. I would say Darius Rucker, South Carolina would be one that
That's a good one
probably
now.
should have been
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
after some of the other college celebrity fans that we discussed. Dwayne Burrell, Oregon. I'm old, man.
Shaquille O'Neal.
It's like
been
the
on for
fourth
game day
name.
for
The
them,
fourth
so-
name I've never heard of.
Shaquille O'Neal, Dallas Cowboys, Edmonton Oilers, and Northampton Town. I mean,
I
that
will say
doesn't-
shit. I mean, I throw in like Shaq, LSU, Bar. Shaq, same year.
No, I don't think you can. You can't. If you played there, then you have a certain affinity. It's different.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't show their support or cheer or go to games. I mean, Barkley goes to Auburn basketball games. Shaq goes to all football.
Yeah,
Oh, Morgan Freeman, Ole Miss.
yeah, that's true. He
he's
does. Live
diehard.
he does live in Oxford. That's accurate.
Well, hold on. A lot of people live in Oxford.
Morgan Freeman
either-
lives in Oxford. Celebrity for an A-list celebrity to decide to live in Oxford is it's noteworthy.
Right, but he's also a diehard Ole Miss fan. Not just
He's-
lives in Oxford. Like
Well, maybe
I mean,
he's
John
a diehard
Curtis,
old
diehard
Oxford.
Ole Miss fan. I mean, Lane Kiffin lives in Oxford sometimes. I don't even think
when they're winning.
just football. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at a bunch of Jerry Seinfeld, Mets, Jets. There's a bunch of those.
I don't think the only celebrity Jets fan that I feel pop culture and Fireman Ed or Fire Marshal Bill.
Oh, Kevin James, Adam Sandler. Literally everyone's a Jets fan. All Chino.
Everyone.
They are.
Everyone's a Jets fan.
Like I'm telling you, are Jets.
I like to point that out.
Well, I'm not saying that you need to be. I'm just saying all the New York actors are Jets fans. There are a lot of them. Nobody likes the Giants in New York.
Why? They're the actual good team.
They are, but they also are the white-collar team. Like, everyone likes the blue-collar team. I don't know why that is, but it's just
Hugh
the way
Jackman
it is.
is a Tracy fan. Buster fan.
Okay.
Kevin is a Giants fan. 50 Cent is a Giants fan. Lady Giants fan. Ranker.com.
That's great. Rooney
Kind of has to be.
owns the team. Yes. Hard time understanding why this is a hard thing to wrap your head around.
I don't think anyone pays attention to who the celebrity Jets fans are. So.
Okay, well, you just gave me a list of
Joseph kind of Giants fan.
All right, well, we have Chris Rock, Hank Azaria, Johnny Lee Miller,
not
Matthew Modine.
Who does John Bon Jovi root for? Answer me that.
Bobby Cannavale, Jay-Z. We got Jay-Z? What?
Eddie Burns. According to I'm going to shut the conversation down right here. Tom Cruise, a Giants fan. Game over. You lose.
I bet you Tom Cruise is watching a lot
you
of football.
Lose.
Yeah.
Just can't give you 30 in the red zone? Come on.
He can do his own stunt.
That's why zone and man coverage. He knows all. He'll tell you about blitz pickup.
Yeah.
Sitting there telling you why Ron Dane missed the blitz pickup on the left side. He knows all about that. Why Tiki Barber. Tom Cruise can answer all those questions right now.
Probably so.
Why Eli was so good throwing into the wind.
Uh-huh. Is that what it was?
Because he knows about the wind from his stunts holding on the side of an airplane. By the way, and it was one of his stunts in the new movie where he's holding on the side of the plane that takes off. It said theater stunt, like the real footage and the theater footage, and I honestly couldn't tell the difference. It looked like one did like when you go to your pictures and you try to you can do like brightness or you with that on one of them and the other one they didn't do it. That was the only difference. I was like, what am I looking for? I can't see. Because you couldn't tell that he was actually strapped to the plane on either one. So his eyes had to hurt after that.
I mean, I don't understand. I've watched 700 miles an hour 17 times. I'm definitely going to see that movie. Like that one looks awesome. Like I don't know why. I probably shouldn't care, but I'm in. All in. 100% in.
This conversation's over.
Exactly.
Who's Mark McGrath?
Molly's husband.
Ah.
No, a Sugar Ray guy.
Queen. Come on. We're done.
Aha.
Over.
There you go. Well, I'm still going. God, we're staying hot here in Jets world. We got
Kevin James. Who else?
Ray Romano.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do. It sounds in the Giants.
We got Colin Farrell.
Like I said.
Ralph Macchio again.
Has Colin Farrell been in a movie since Phone Booth?
Who cares?
It's a simple question.
We was engaged to Pam before Jim. I don't even know
That's
his name.
saying something?
Yeah. What?
Said goofy comedians.
He's not a comedian. He's
kind of.
John
whose
Cena.
name is?
John Cena, Jets fan.
I don't believe that.
Just moving on. All right.
Yep. Golly, we're dominating.
You're ripping today. You got
Love
it all going. The weather's been ripping the last couple of days as well. That's why you need a train in your home. Spring weather can be unpredictable. You need that reliability. Voted America's most trusted. Right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor for systems. Find out more at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. SEC meetings underway. A lot happening over the weekend. We'll begin to discuss it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back. 7:28 a.m. Back one of the in the show's history. Russell Terry tweets in, "I Jets fan. Every year is Mission Impossible."
Wow.
It's actually good.
Hater.
Charles Ramsey in Auburn. Haven't seen him in any games, so I don't know if we can count him wearing a hat that one time.
Yeah, when I think Auburn football, I think Leo. For show.
Absolutely. Bama Swag tweets in, Dwayne Rock, Miami. Dwayne
He
Rock
played
Johnson.
there. Yeah, that counts. Does he go back to games?
I don't believe so. I don't know.
I think he's more of a, I don't know, San Antonio Brahmas fan.
Probably. How can you say John Cena is a fan of anyone when you, quote, can't see him?
That's fair. It's well said.
There you go.
I got nothing to.
I can't answer it. I have no idea of what's going on there and how that's happening. I mentioned SEC meetings today. think he frustrated with the media on kind of asking about from other conferences and some things that some other conference commissioners may or may not have said. This was his response to that earlier this week.
Look at a track record. We have had last year. I don't need lectures from others. I don't lecture others about good of the game. And coordinating press releases about good of the game. You know, again, okay, you can issue your press statement, but I'm actually is to move us forward. So, Ralph, I'll go back and say team design was really well considered at the time. We never spoke to support the 12-team playoff. Even though it worked, that didn't mean everybody in this league thought it was the best idea. But you engage in that type of problem solving. I'm open to ideas. There's just not a lot of incoming. My phone's not ringing off the hook with, hey, here's another way to look at it. And so thoughtful, we'll continue to try to provide information to our members and help them guide the decision. And I ends up typically in front of the podium explaining not just myself, but ourselves. So good luck to me.
I wanted to go a little further with this, Greg, because there are some folks that are frustrated with some of the things that the commissioner has said. He would go on to talk about the good of the game and things that he has done or how he feels like he handles it.
Right.
Look at a track record. We have had half the four last year. I don't know about good of the game.
So we can stop it there. We've heard it, and you know, it's not Greg Sankey's job to manage what's best. GMAC. I believe that there are parts of him deep down inside. I mean, listen, you got to remember he's a smaller school guy by DNA at his core. So I do think that there's a portion of him that considers that, thinks about that, but he's not paid to do what's best for the Southeastern Conference. And there are a lot of had certain things to say about whether or not he is doing that, and then some people looking at it and saying you don't do what's best for the game. It's kind of tough. It's not his job, and the criticism of him for not doing that, I'm not sure if it's warranted. It's not what he's paid to do. College football.
Well, no. That I say that's hilarious about this whole thing. Greg Sankey could, in theory, now I'm sure not without legal challenges, but he could, in theory, say we are only playing Southeastern Conference teams. We are not going to participate in your playoff. We are going to make our own, and we will declare that person the national champion. He could do that, but he's actually not talked about the possibility of 2 automatic qualifiers given to the ACC and the Big 12. Well, did he have to do that? No. He's coming from such a significant position of strength and leverage that anything is voluntary. And that's what I think is amazing about this, is that people try to act like he's this tyrant, when in reality, if he said, hey, we're taking 60% of the revenues, nothing you can do about it, they would get 60% of the revenue because they're that powerful. College football playoff would cease to exist without the SEC's involvement. So I get where people get off on acting like he is, some guy that's just absolutely going scorched earth on the current establishment that is college football. He's not. If anything, I think kind of a humanitarian with how they've approached it, if you want me to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think that people aren't going to look at it that way, though. People are going to look at different sides of this and say that this is just the ball and running, and that the SEC and the Big Ten are in collaboration to sort of pull away from the rest of college football. A lot of people that either believe that or see it that way.
Right.
And there's a portion of me that believes that believes intentional mindset. I would describe it as that, but there's a part, let's just say a league or a shelf that these guys can play on or operate on that other folks and are not going to be able to get to. And so sharing the rules or being able to else's level, I don't think they want to do that anymore. I'm not the only one. Yeah, there's a tweet over the weekend from Congressman Brendan Boyd, who tweeted out, "Let me state this is clear at Big Ten. Be very careful about some of the decisions they're about to make because they appear they need congressional hearings into their collusion." So it's not that some of this has taken place, GMAC. I mean, there are people in positions of power that are is heightened as to just how this is all taking place.
Well, and understandably, and that's why I think it won't be without challenge. But in reality, if the SEC, and granted there's state funding involved, and there's a level of complexity to this that I don't think a lot of people totally understand. And it goes far beyond that. And we're talking like, I mean, the highest courts in the world would be having to rule on this, on these challenges, these legal challenges. And it's complex. Court getting involved is not really all that unlikely when determining antitrust and all this other stuff. But the reality is, Greg Sankey works for 16 individuals. He's the presidents of the 16 universities that he represents. And make sure that the interests of those 16 schools is protected. And I feel like he's done a remarkably good job of that without completely scorched earth. I mean, remember, we're talking about a sport that was on the verge of folding during COVID. And Greg Sankey stayed steadfast in his leadership and allowed that. Like, we are talking in different examples in which he has gone out on a limb and protected us from bad decisions and has ushered in new eras. So, hard time understanding, like those that are looking at it, okay, I'm sorry if you're a small school. But the reality is the small schools have gotten a pretty good deal in the last 40 years of college football. And right now, I think their deal is phenomenal. They have access to the playoff for the very first time. But I don't think that's going to last forever. And that's unfortunate. But we've said forever, hey, if the small schools want to continue to exist, they have to play on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays and Thursdays. They won't do it in some cases. They should maybe consider playing in the spring. They won't do it in some cases. Football's meant to be played in the fall and so forth. So I think that they're going to have to be a little bit more creative here at some point, because I don't think these handouts that the big schools have been giving the smaller schools forever are going to continue, because they are now having to account for $20 million that is no longer there that they have to pay the players. So they have to get creative and they have to do what they have to do. And if that requires separating themselves from the smaller schools, then so be it. That's the way it's going to happen.
There are some comments made that some of what Greg Sankey is saying. I'll share side who said them, what they were, as to why this may be going where it is. First, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is great, and it's the one place that I know exactly what I'm going to get every single time I walk in the door. It's tremendous service. It's a tremendous experience, and it's the best selection of beautiful and timeless jewelry. You can get the natural diamonds. You can go and get gold, silver, platinum, you name it, they got it. And this diamond, these diamonds that they have, look, I don't know just by looking at it whether or not a diamond's good or not. Like, I don't know. They have gemologists. They obviously have GIA certifications, but they're going to help you through the process, and that's going to make things a heck of a lot easier for you in making a decision on what might be, that time, the biggest purchase you've ever made. So highly recommend going to Bromberg's. It's the only place I've shopped since we moved back to Birmingham, and I know that you guys will feel the exact same way when you walk in the door and have a great conversation with one of their incredible salespeople in Mountain Brook Village, and at the Summit, it's Bromberg's.
All right, when we come back, the comments that potentially set Greg and forced him at the SEC meetings that he has. We'll discuss those right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Is it Greg saying to babysit college football? Do what's best for 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOA 450. Also, you can tweet into the show at Mac and Cube. And I do think began with some of the comments from in the previous week when the ACC meetings were taking place. Jim Phillips told Heather Dinnett's, quote, "We all serve our constituents while also being mindful as to what's best for college football. Today's decision was done in the best. It may not be, but ability I take very seriously." That was in reference to the seating that will be adjusted and then take place moving forward, to which some people didn't like because it felt like it was essentially the Boise State rule, where conference champions not going to have an easier path to be able to get in or miss a round. Once they get into the playoff, it'll be more straight seeding. So that's some of the what I do believe that Greg Sankey is being asked for and responding to. He says that he make that decision because he thought it was best for college football.
No, I think they went along with it and they accepted it because they know that they have no choice and they have to play nice, because if Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti decided to smash the gavel here starting in 2027 or 2028, if they are concede a little now, then maybe Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti won't be willing to concede very much when things come around and they have to determine the next round of realignment.
I mean, you said Greg Sankey and a couple of others don't necessarily have to do anything, don't have to play nice with anybody. Now, I don't know exactly where that would take things in the future, but doesn't have to play ball with anybody in some ways. And those are a topic that has sort of pushed things back and forth, and that has been asked about at SEC meetings. Greg Sankey discussed with a certain report of college football playoff.
One could say that when you talk about automatic qualifiers, look at the NCAA basketball tournament. If you were to give the ACC a certain amount based off of what was happening a decade ago, they're the strongest conference arguably, and now they are no longer that. They had a record low in percentage representation. So why should we be awarding a conference a certain amount of automatic qualifiers for a certain amount of years? Why should we be setting that in stone for several years?
Is that an editorial or a question?
That's been asked by critics, reporters, everybody out there. Lots at stake right now.
Well, I don't know what you're asking. You're observing.
Do you believe?
What's the question?
Do you believe that setting out that format for several years, not just for 1 year, for several years, is fair? Having that static 4 automatic qualifiers for a certain amount of period, beyond 1 year, is fair?
Yeah, your question assumes like one variable when I just walked through their other variables.
They change every year.
Well, I let you ask your question, so you can decide whether you want me to answer the question or not. So there's one variable you asked about, right? Which is if you do this. And I began by saying we're not committed at this point to something. We're interested.
So Brandon Marcello, Greg Sankey, a little bit of back and forth there at SEC meetings, Greg. And I'm not sure what to make of the "we're not committed, we're interested" comment there, because obviously you're not committed unless something's
right.
But do you think that they're on the table, direction that the Southeastern Conference would like to go?
No, I honestly don't. I think it'd be nice to have format. I can understand the automatic qualifier angle because it does make alterations and add inventory to your conference championship week. So I can understand why there is value to going with an automatic qualifier. That's why you have to play in games during conference championship week between 6 and 3, 4 and 5, and 1 and 2. I understand all of that. But I also think that when I look at the automatic qualifiers, it will adjust so significantly our ability to consume And we have never once, not once, thought about, hey, I really need to finish 6th in my conference. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I think changing behavior is going to be very different, and that's going to be strange for a lot of fans. That's why I have not been on board with it. And there's going to be some years in which the ACC doesn't deserve 2. There's going to be some years in which the Big Ten doesn't deserve 4. And guess what? In a real weird year, there might be some years when the SEC doesn't deserve 4. Those are all very realistic. So having those prerequisites in which you are already accounting for 12 of the 16 or 14 spots does make me a little uncomfortable. I will admit.
I want to go further down that path when we come back. Of what should it be? What I'm going to ask the listeners, what do you want it to be? The college teams should get in. Does the SEC deserve to have 4 in every year? Does the Big Ten deserve to have 4 in every year? What would you want to happen if you had the call? If this was college football playoffs, Burger King, you can have how teams get in. 800-239-9569, text 349-450. You can tweet in at Mac and Cube. Which teams to make a 12 team, or if we go to it, dare I say, when we go to it, a 16-team college football playoff. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning. What should it be? Guidelines, parameters, qualifications. 16 team? Do you want all conference champion bid? Do they deserve an automatic bye? SEC bid deserve 4 spots, 2 spots automatically. What would you want if you could have it? Hastings said to join us on the Higginbotham. Same, 800-239-9569. Hastings, how would you want this to operate if you had it your way?
Yeah, 2 quick points. They'll together at the end. But what I will say is, where was this collusion discussion from state legislators when Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC and they created that alliance with college football? Then the Big Ten goes and poaches the rest of the best teams. And the ACC basketball goes null and void because now with the transfer portal, you see that the most successful conferences are most revenue into the sport, and they get that revenue off media deals and off of their viewers. So what I will say is this: if you do a 16-team playoff, why not reward the conferences that are getting? Now, yeah, I think you should do 4. I think it tries to protect against what we had this year with SMU, potentially Indiana, and may even bolster, if the ACC wants to complain about it, bolster your out-of-conference schedule. So when you have these out-of-conference schedule line and you want to get in and you're only left with 2, play an SEC team, play a Big Ten team that actually has relevance. I know that's going to be hard to do, but I think if you have your straight seeding teams from saves college football because they get the most views. When you look at the top things this year, majority of them outside the NFL are Big Ten, SEC matchups. And then if you're willing to put in the revenue, you agree that they should have the top. Media right says that too. You want viewership, you want the viewers, then what you need to do is schedule games better. And if you go to 9 SEC games, all you're going to do with these tough records, because Ole Miss, Alabama, and what have you are the teams that are playing the best schedules. 10 teams, but you need to cross them over. I say you give them 4 in the format, and that way you get the best matchups. But throughout the season, you create interest because you also have better matchups through the season for playing your lettuce games in the beginning of the year with the SEC or the ACC and the Big 12. So that's kind of my format. I think we go 4-4.
I'm just going to play this really quick. I'm just going to play quick. Decides who plays for a national championship.
Now, that's not what I think. You do drive ratings, though, throughout the year, and that helps the Big 12 media rights. Then you better play those games, because if not, what's going to happen is your conference is going to continue to fall behind in revenue, and you're not going to be able to have as successful teams because you're not able to pour as much into the conference. So I think it kind of plays out on its own. Revenue teams do play for that, because what happens is teams through.
I appreciate the call. What should Q 5-6? Hour number 2 underway. Meetings and how teams should get in to the college football. What team to make it? What should the parameters be for teams to be a championship? If you had this was completely, how would you want to see teams actually make a 12-team, 16-team college football playoff?
I think the best thing would be just straight seeding 1 through 16. But I don't think that guards some of the things that concern me most. Like, I love our regular season. I think the regular season should be of the utmost importance, and we should value teams that have played a ridiculously difficult gauntlet to get to that final test, and the final test being the college football playoff with 16 teams. Like, I think we should reward teams that went out on a limb and played in the non-conference against top quality teams. And right now, if we go with the straight seeding model, 1 through 16, I am concerned that there will be more teams like Indiana that make the playoff. And this is not me picking on Indiana. It's just purely a matter of by the way, they belonged. They deserved it. If you watch at how they played last year, more so than who they played, you would have supported their inclusion as well. You would have. This was a really, really good football team last year. So I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. I'm just saying there will be teams that follow that model in an effort to gain access to the playoff, and they will go out of their way to schedule more gettable opponents, because they think that at the end of the day, all that matters is if you're 11-1, 10-2, you're in. Should you be? Probably not, but based on 1 year of precedent so far. So that's been my biggest fear if we go with the straight seeding model 1 through 16, because if we do, then there might be a lot of teams that are 10-2 that haven't played or beaten anybody, and the 2 playoff caliber teams they played, they got beat by, and yet they're in because their record and their win-loss record is good enough to warrant them being in.
How is based on how these teams are selected? Because I say, yeah, team straight seeded 1 through 16 is the way it should be. Team that wouldn't be in the top 25 or 4 team that wouldn't be in the top 25 doesn't deserve to be there. But that's going to change based on how and who. Would you not agree? Is deciding who they are. Is it a human committee? Is it a mathematical formula? What's if no automatic qualifiers, which some people would say, like, it should just be the top. It doesn't matter what you do in it's what your conference is, teams, how much sway hiking based on how those 16 teams are decided.
I think that's kind of what I would like to get figured out before we adjust the format. Like, to me, I think we need to have a very digestible criteria. And part of the challenge here is that the SEC is always going to have, probably 12 of the top 25 teams as far as strength of schedule. I mean, is that a reasonable expectation? Probably, right? I mean, I don't see any SEC teams that are out, in the 60s as far as strength of schedule is concerned. Meanwhile, we saw Indiana last year through 10 weeks with the strength of schedule that was in the hundreds. I mean, that's crazy, right? It just so happened that that's the way it went last year. And like I said, they belonged because they were smoking teams. It wasn't even close. Ohio State. But looking at the SEC, I mean, shouldn't strength of schedule be the most important factor? Shouldn't we reward teams for challenge? Shouldn't we be encouraging non-conference competition amongst top teams? When we look at the upcoming 2025 schedule, what games are you most excited about?
Yeah, with exactly what you're saying at SEC meetings was, it's clear that not losing is more important than playing.
Correct.
I think that would follow up with kind of where you're headed right there.
And that's the concern. Like, shouldn't we have – we should have a very transparent process about what teams get in. I want to know I want to know exactly how strength of schedule's weighted. I want to know exactly how much win-loss records weighted before I go and make wholesale changes to our scheduling philosophy or to our playoff format. So until I know exactly what the criteria is, and they've always been very vague as it relates to the criteria. Why? Because there's 13 people on the committee. All 13 might see it a little differently. And that's okay. I can live with that. But I need to know exactly what it takes to make it before I'm willing to go in there and to endorse a structure, a playoff structure, that I think is going to best suit my constituents. I honestly don't know the answer to that just yet, and I'm not sure anybody does.
That's fair. In via Twitter, I'll get to those responses. You can be a part of the show as well, at Mac and Cube. Joel Dobbins tweets in, 12 teams, straight seeding, no auto bids. I understand it begins with money, and most conference champions 12 anyways, but I feel like auto itself entirely 12, excuse me, I just adjusted, and get it. Like he said, they're going to be in anyway for the most part. So I don't know if an auto bid from all the conference – the problem conference champions we haven't seen yet, Greg, is going to come when we get a massive upset. And we get losses that somehow got into a weaker conference championship game and they win that. Specifically, that at that point, lower conference that then makes it difficult for them to even get in. Second game and all, hold on, here come the 3 or 4 loss SEC Big Ten teams that maybe need to be in above that, which then goes back to my point deciding this, because I think when we start to get down to the ifs, the maybes, the buts, the whys of the 2 loss versus the 3 loss, the 3 loss versus the 4 loss, the 10, 11, 12, the 14, 15, 16th team in, that's when this is going to get tricky. And is it the human element? Is it a mathematical formula? I've said this 20 times on this show. I'll say it again. Formula's back. You all hated him 20 years ago. You all that BCS formula thing. It's so good. It knows full computers, man. None of you are not a single person. And now everybody, I don't know, sitting there on chat, numbers back. And then Boise State's going to be number 2 in your. It's not going to be any different. It's not. You're good numbers, you're good, which is one of the things that has made the sport great. The actual debate be better than the other.
Yes.
A 3-loss SEC team, a 1-loss Pac-12 team. Who's better? Harder? Because there's more better players and more teams you'd least like to play against. But some football teams are so magic, yes, no, definitive. But got to be formula again. Bring Dr. Kevorkian back or whoever it was that was making up the mythical algebra equation, and we got to that guy that crunches numbers, he knows situational football. He knows travel. He knows. You can't tell me you believe that. You can't. You can want to believe it because you think it simplifies things and potentially it takes out some human bias that you believe exists. But if you're sitting there better than people that watch it, sorry, I just don't believe you. I believe you think that, but I don't think you believe it.
Well, here's my pushback on the computers. Coming from this part of the country. So I'm viewing it exclusively through the SEC lens. Guess who always seemed to benefit from the BCS? And I know there are outlier examples in which Auburn was left out after going undefeated. I understand that there are a handful of outliers where people look back at it and say, yeah, you know what, I didn't like that result. But more often than not, over the 16-year history of the SEC and the BCS marriage, it worked out pretty dang well for the SEC. So I can understand why people in this part of the country have an affinity for the BCS format. I get it. It makes sense. It helped us. It worked for us. We won 7 straight or 8 straight national championships, and that has a lot of people fired up. And think about how many different teams won national championships in that stretch. Florida, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, a bunch of teams. Georgia was right there. A handful of other teams were right there. It was a benefit. Obviously, Tennessee won one in 98. I mean, it's a ton of examples of the SEC having great advantages in the BCS era. The problem is I don't know why you want it, because no single person that could quantify the BCS formula for me. I'm a fairly intelligent human being. I'm very mathematically driven mentally. That's what I can't read very well. My reading comprehension's subpar. But math-wise, I'm good. That's where I'm better. And if you tell me that I want the Harris poll having 15% of the weighted calculation about who gets into the top BCS, I'm out there. Like the Jack Kevorkian poll, I'm good. I don't really need that to factor in, because how do you know that person doesn't have biases? I mean,
I don't.
How do you know AP polls doesn't have biases? Or coaches poll? The coaches poll or the SIDs that are actually doing the rankings are spending a lot of time on that, a lot of due diligence on that, as opposed to the 13 individuals that are sitting in that room pouring through tons of data, tons of information, and a handful actually coach the game so they can actually sit there and watch the tape and make a judgment on who you think's best. But I can understand why some people don't, because they think that people are terrible, but they don't realize that the polls actually have people behind them.
A couple more responses. Put the automatic bids. Keep the drama. It's good for Christmas, which ultimately keeps people invested. People say they don't. AC's dad tweets in, no is the way to go for the entire enterprise. Let the BCS teams and ditch the committee. So, Greg Henry out of it and go back to the BCS format. Brandon tweets in, any reason we can't implement that quad 1, quad 2 win system from college basketball into college football? What strength of schedule debates with more objectivity? Curious y'all's take. I don't think it's the worst thing I've heard. I will say this, and again, I haven't put a lot of thought into this. The first time I've been asked that. I do think you have a larger sample size in basketball to be able to determine what those wins are. I think a lot of times has got their strength of schedule, and I guess that's the problem with saying that. That's why I don't use for the strength of schedule. Reference not a bunch. I can pretty much determine how difficult the teams are that somebody plays. I be more difficult than their record would show or the chemistry, because a lot. But if you know another team that's a little bit over 500, and that gives them a lot more difficulty, but they find a way to win, team more credit. If a team's not great against the run and they play in the country and they find a way to go win that game, I think you deserve more credit for that win when they're not a team which the strength to give you credit for winning. They don't take that into account. Strength of schedule doesn't take into account that a team's left tackle was out and you played Dylan Stewart a plan to be able to together offset his rush ability, and you won the football game. Tell me where the math works with that. It doesn't. All those things should be taken into consideration, but I don't think it is a lot of the times. So I think the problem with football would be where to implement if it were a quad win. Week 6, week 8. I think, I don't know if you have say, I mean, at the end of the year, maybe you would. But when do we really get what that quadrant would be with a certain win? Do we have so let's conference perspective. How quadrant wins with other teams that didn't play what you deem to be top 25 football teams, but yet you beat that team. So they're is that a quad one win? They haven't really beat a great record. I just think that and again, I'm not great with math. I don't really know how a lot of it works, but in basketball, when you have 30-something games to be able to go through and say, this is why this team qualifies for this.
Yeah, I think it's a little harder in basketball because the reality is when looking at the net rankings, the Ken Palm rankings, and all the stuff in basketball, you're honestly having to judge 300 and some odd teams, and you're trying to fill out a field of 68. And the reality is team 69, 70, 71, 72 doesn't really matter. I know it sounds bad, but those bubble teams, like, so be it. You'll win your games. Like, you get in. And honestly, there's just too many teams, so you have to have some type of quad one wins and all this other stuff. It works in basketball. It's great. In football, there's a little bit more to it. Like, a quarterback's completion percentage is not directly reflective of whether or not they win. Whereas in basketball, if a team goes out and shoots 52% from three, guess what? Those numbers kind of go hand in hand. If a team is, this, I mean, I've seen quarterbacks complete 73% and their teams are 6 and 7. I mean, is that reflective? No, because it's a different game. It's not as statistically driven. Like, we look at Nate Oates and his offensive system, and it's so much fun to watch, but a lot of it's based on math.
Shadur Sanders led the nation in completion percentage. Should Colorado have been in the playoff?
Should have been, all based on that. Because, I mean, it's math. I mean, there's a statistical analysis of basketball that's become commonplace, and analytics are extremely valuable in basketball. I'm not saying they're not in football, but it's more situationally. Like, analytics isn't going to get Dylan Stewart blocked. I got news for you. It's not. So I just don't think that, it works in basketball, it should work in football. It's a different game. It's a more it's a great game, basketball is, and so is football, but they're very different. So I just don't think that anything that's used as far as determining the playoff field in the basketball tournament should be even considered when it comes to the football tournament.
All fair points and all. We got more. Some of listener who's tweeting in that I think pretend, and it does involve math. We'll discuss Cube in the morning. All right, welcome. Hunter 239 WJOX. Clock to give us his updates from SEC meetings down in Destin, which to some us so far. Certain folks frustrated, upset. You've got Steve Sarkisian saying that there was some misreporting on it being earlier in the season. All this denied Ohio moving their game to Sunday time. Fox apparently gave the okay to Ohio State, and Texas turned that down. Was that the right thing to do? Perspective?
I can understand first and foremost why Fox was trying to put that game on Sunday night.
Yeah.
As someone that's done that Sunday night window a couple times, it is a massive, massive audience. Now you do have Miami and Notre Dame that would also be going head to head. Is that ultimately going to be prohibitive? Probably not. But I can understand why Fox wanted it. I can understand why Ohio State wanted it. But with Texas coming back, I think it makes sense to just play. You're Texas. You don't have to bend the knee to anybody. Like, just you play when you want to play, and we'll rock and roll. That's the way I think it will and probably should go if you're Texas.
Say, oh, it's great to go to college football. Put the game on in prime time. What, are you scared to play at night? You tell me. When would you rather play on programs in college football in one of the more hostile environments in college football? I've never done a game there. I don't know. Never been there. I think it's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
Saturday at noon or Sunday night at 7? I sense would say nooner. We would like that crowd to be a little bit asleep if possible.
Yeah.
It's not even debatable. Not even really up for debate. So we've asked the question. Football playoff, 800-239-9569. What would be best in your mind? You can text into the show as well. 205-450. Tweet in at Mac and Q. Before about Game Day Men's Health, there's no debate over who can help you most with your health in town, and that's Game Day Men's Health. If you are suffering from a lack of sleep, if you don't have energy, you're feeling on edge, testosterone, maybe you're just looking to lose some weight. Maybe you're looking peptides are in stock now at Game Day Men's Health to be able to help you with that. If you have arthritis, peptides, it can help you there as well. Get some of the inflammation down. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule a free consultation. Sit down with the folks at Game Day Men's Health. They'll give you the free PSA test, free testosterone, where your baseline health is. Right there on site, and you haven't paid a dime. And you save 10% on any service they offer by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. If you want to get better, Game Day Men's Health can help you. Locker room environment, low stress, not going to try to push you into things that you don't need or don't want. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com and schedule that free consultation today. It is easy. All right, some folks chiming in via Twitter, at Mac and Cube. You can be a part here. I told you we had one good idea coming in. MD tweets in, if they don't adopt the Rubik's Cubelic as the standard for selecting the playoff teams, they're drunk and high. If we're going to go academia, it feels like that's the way to go. What can be? You guys can have your mythical formulas in which they won't tell you what goes into them. We state it very clearly right here on the Rubik's Cubelic, exactly what goes into that every week.
I think the Rube Cube would be great. The problem is the Rube Cube does need the occasional tweak.
There's no problem. Let's just be honest.
Just the occasional tweak depending on
you don't think the
flavor of the day
on a Thursday or Friday,
football.
Greg?
Well,
you don't think after hours? Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you how the Rube Cube would really work. If basically the Rube Cube were in charge exclusively of college football, then Army and Air Force would make the college football playoff every year. Which,
we might even throw the Marines in there.
Probably not even Coast Guard Academy.
Yeah.
For me, if they were in the playoff, I'd be the happiest person on earth for that. But, Cube really loves to run the football and stop the run. And if you can do those two things, the Rube Cube's going to love you.
Conversion third downs, don't get penalized. You'll be rewarded for that as well. Yeah.
Turnover margin.
Don is on the phone, wants to talk college football playoff teams, how you should get in. Don, what would your best solution be?
Well, yes, formula, and I completely agree. I still think we forward, and I think we gave USC a better game than Oklahoma. I'm not sure what you guys think about that.
My mindset, Auburn team. So and people get really mad at me for saying that, but I get mad at me for everything I say. So appreciate the call, Don. But I just it goes, and to say that they got it right the majority of the time, it wasn't to pick the top 2 teams in college football. I mean, how many times we were debating Alabama versus who, like and Brandon Whedon? Come on. It wasn't a debate. Stop. Oklahoma State was doing the road. They weren't anywhere near as good of a team. Like, what were we talking? 7.425 and 9. They're close. No, they're not. I've watched.
Well,
do well.
I'm not sure what Brandon Whedon did to deserve.
It's not his fault.
Absolute hate he's getting. I mean, Weeds was good. I don't know. Golly,
apparently, so was Shador.
he threw some. Absolutely. Derek, because of the NIL and the portal. Well, I mean, it's
dying.
Yeah,
right.
Dying is a little bit aggressive.
It's dying like the sun is dying.
Right. I've seen some numbers. It's pretty
I
good.
think we're pretty healthy.
Royal Pain tweets in, making me look forward to the ACC collapse, the breakaway rivals. Ooh.
Okay.
Here's what's wild about that tweet is I don't think too many people would push back and say that sounds completely egregious. I mean, we all feel like that in some way, shape, or form, that's where we're headed. And that's terrible. There's other people that will say football. We're not going to everyone loves. We just aren't. Because some Sun Belt and the Mountain West should have their place every year. Other people don't think some get in as possible. And no, us on this show don't believe that Matt Rule thought 40 teams should really get in, even though people wrote articles about it. Other people think he should decide who they are, and then they just go play in the bowl games they're selected to play in. Who cares? Get the Locha Poca Times to name you national champions. Put it on your stadium. Doesn't matter. We're never going to get to a place that everybody like it. We're just not. But I mean, Mikey tweets in, shoot more, score more to win college football playoff spots. There you go.
Okay.
Just throw it deep. Chuck it down the field.
Well, there's the problem. Now your completion percentage is going down, but your yards per attempt is going up. So, what's the committee going to value?
Math.
Up. This team actually. Could you imagine the chairman of the college football playoff committee coming out there or whatever? What do we call him? The chairman, the lead, or whatever? This team just mathed it up a little better than the other math. This mathed.
Have you ever listened to somebody from the college basketball committee talk about who got in and why?
Quad 1, quad 2,
RPI, net. They might not say everything they're. But you made a good. The amount of basketball that actually takes place, it almost lean on some of those numbers. Even though I don't love that, but I'm not broken down Creighton's backcourt. And I know what it looks like.
Oh, you know what it looks like.
And I know defense is, or I don't the banana slugs rebound. I can't help you with that. I mean, I don't know. There's just a ton of it. So maybe that has to be what it is. Trip tweets in. Team is fun. You can't get the same credit for beating team number 2 and team number 24. Not close to the same win quality. But would you not agree that football number 2 and number 24 a lot of times are much closer than college football?
Yes.
There still may be a gap,
Yeah.
but two on football feel like they're totally, let's just say every year. Do we have a year that number 2 was close to 24? I don't think I can find one of those that really exists.
I mean, yes, people always throw out the anomalies where, unranked team beat number 1. But we never want to choose to factor in circumstances as it relates to those upsets in football. Those circumstances are all teams flat because they're coming off a big win, or the team just played 3 out of the last 4 on the road. Now they, have to have this final game before they head to the bye week. Oh, well, this team's reading their press clippings. That's why they didn't show up this day. Like, you lose a game in college basketball, it's like, all right, so what's next? You lose a game in college football, it's like, oh my gosh, we're dead. So
you lose a game in college, play at their place in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just turn the page. Or they had this game there in college baseball, similar to that also. That was Cole. My apologies. Sorry about that. I
can promise you, he's not yelling today.
But just for reference, in the final week of the college football season, Georgia was ranked number 2, and number 24, just for play the game, was UNLV.
Right there.
Like, this pretty close.
He gets that game.
Who's their quarterback? Sluka?
No,
Sluka.
He was done at week 3.
Oh,
no, Sluka's coming back just for that one.
If Sluka, he brought the magic. No, I mean, it's fair. That window is much tighter than it would be in football. So
correct.
Mikey also tweeting in, Texas doesn't have to bend a knee, and certainly not going to bend a knee to former Aggie Ross Bjork.
Oh boy.
Show him.
Oh boy. Cue the.
But our naming Ross Bjork is one of theirs.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Nope. They definitely have always been a big Ross Bjork enthusiast.
My A&M blood wants me to get back at Texas.
I'm gonna get.
I
I'm
don't
gonna show
feel like that's a real thing for him either.
You ain't gonna tell us when we gonna play.
He's just LJ Robinson tweets in, this is the way, the computer conference affiliation.
Well, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
They don't measure want to.
No.
Greg Hendricks tweets in, at this point, just let puppies pick it like they did when they played for the Super Bowl winner. It's getting ridiculous.
Ooh, I like that play. It's really not that bad, though. Like, I love how people just try to act like it's, like, the worst thing ever. It's just not that bad. I mean.
What did the last year?
What in the history of the playoff? Okay, so you disagree that Florida State should have made it in over Alabama. Okay, so you disagree that Penn State, who lost 2 games, should have made it in over Ohio State back in 2016. Okay, so you disagree that, they're one-offs.
But
and
I do think we're looking at where teams were seated this year and blaming the committee on that, and that's not the committee's doing. That was automatic bids and automatic buys in play, not the committee, correct? So I'm not saying the committee's ever done. I think they looked at it and said, yeah, I don't see it that way. That's not where I would have gone with that. But on the flip side, and once again, the majority of the committee have been teams that weren't getting in anyway. When you look, hold on, you had so-and-so at 12 or 15? Like, what? And this team forced by?
Yeah.
Nobody pays attention. Those are the ones that I've noticed over time that have kind of, I guess, heightened my antennas of what? How did you do that? But it's all different. I'm going to return. If you had it your how would you seed the teams? What teams would get into the college football playoff and where? We'll do it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. in the morning, 8:39, right here, or 5. So Rex Road live meetings coming up at on some of the things that have taken place, some of the comments that have gone around. We'll talk certain coaches have certain things to say about that, something that Texas A&M is doing to their roster. We'll discuss that. A couple audio-wise coming from SEC meetings. We'll continue that conversation here on the show. You can be a part, 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. Text in 205-834-9450. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Listen online, jocksfm.com. In your app store. You can watch live on YouTube there. You can get the podcast live. Either way, watch live on YouTube every day. Go back and check out the show. Just search WJOX 945. 16 teams, 12 teams, whatever it is. What would be your and where they actually qualified for the playoff?
You straight seeded 1 through whatever, 12, 14, 16, and you have a committee do it. No need, no numbers, don't need formulas, don't need any of that. People that actually, allegedly, watch the game, I don't want to say know the game, but know whatever well enough and can tell me that, okay, Indiana may have a better record, but Alabama looks like a better team. I'm putting Alabama in. You should just straight seed it, because if you automatically putting conference champs in, that's not, to me, that's not necessarily proving that it's one of the however many best teams. Yes, the Big 12 has a champion. Are they one of the best 12, 14, 16? They weren't last year, but they were allowed access. So straight seeded, no matter what. That's it. Okay. Not hard.
Dave, I'd like to see this done. 12 teams, 16. How should it take place?
See, I do think that if you win your conference, you get an automatic bid. I would do Power 4. Group of 5, it's kind of iffy, but I would guarantee ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, they get an automatic bid if they win their conference. Group of 5 champion, depending on how they went about their season, like I don't expect, like an 8-4. I don't necessarily think they get an automatic bid, but they could potentially get an at-large bid. But then everybody else is an at-large. But I do think the automatic qualifiers would come from the Power 4 conferences.
And that's why, like, I want that, but I don't want to mandate that, because I feel like most years your conference champs will probably be in the top 10, 12, whatever. Yeah. But I don't want to say yes every single year, because if by chance there's just a down year and your conference champ is 16, or if by chance maybe they lose in it and fall to a lesser team, I don't want to automatically put them in, because they've shown this year that conference wasn't all that great. So that's why I don't want to mandate that they have to automatically be in. And as to the group of 5, like I went back and looked over the life of the playoff, or the 14 or 12 team playoff. Your average final ranking for your group of 5, your highest group of 5 ranking was 14.
Greg, how concerned should we be with the offshoots, the years that'll be like unlike most others, where 10 is down, or one of the smaller conferences will have maybe 2 of the top 10, 12 teams? How concerned should we be? And played like John has said on certain or champions getting in.
I think that's my biggest concern. Is the years, if you already had a predetermined outcome and you cannot fulfill those spots because your teams are inadequate, and it's possible, it's probably not likely, but it's possible, then are you watering down the playoff field? Like that when it comes to automatic qualifiers, and we use the SEC as an example there. But I think in all realities, the most likely examples of inadequate teams being included are going to come out of the Big 12. Because with all due respect to the Big 12, and I know Arizona State went toe-to-toe with Texas last year, and everyone's going to point to that example. But if you're looking at an automatic qualifier situation where there's 2 teams from the Big 12 that get in, how comfortable does that make you? Because it doesn't make me very comfortable. I look at a team like BYU last year, who I think is a good team, but a little flawed, or a team like Colorado last year, who's a good team, but flawed. Should the Big 12 be getting 2 teams in? I think the ACC, for all intents and purposes, probably going to have 2 good enough teams every year. I know that there are people like to rip on the ACC and all stuff, but I think Miami's a real player. I think Louisville's a real player. I know Clemson's a real player. Like I think SMU is not going anywhere in this current format. So I think the ACC more often than not will have two worthy teams, but I don't know about the Big 12. That's part of my concern.
It's totally you think getting maybe one or two bids right now. Most folks get mad at the Big 10 or the SEC getting 4. There's 12 doesn't deserve the ACC doesn't deserve a team. Maybe it's possible. So you don't hear a lot of pushback from that. We don't really. When you make again, I'll go back to the rankings and how you choose the team. Alienate one portion of certain fan bases or one certain fan base portion of all of college football. Same thing if it's conference champions getting not just when they get in buys or home field frustrated with certain portions of that. Why doesn't the other team get that? Why does the other league get that? So you're not going to satisfy everyone. And I go back to what we said earlier in the show, Greg. The commissioner of the Southeastern Conference job to do it.
No.
Because I do think that they both at times could. I'm not going to say that they should because and it's not their job. We'd love for them too. But also, back on it, do we know that it's not best for college football? I don't think it is.
Yeah, right.
Pull away, like we had the fella tweet in a little bit earlier. What if the middle level of college football all of a sudden comes up with their own league, their own playoff? It's competitive. We follow. That ends up being something that's sustainable.
Right.
Well, then that would be something that is beneficial for the greater good of college football. That's the part that, Austin, when you talk about the greater good of college, most people who say, write this tomorrow next year, is that what's best for college football in 10 years? I can't answer that. I don't know college football compared to where we are now.
No doubt.
I thought we had some 3 months ago. Where's that? Team roster spots, that's different than I mean, it's now a playoff apparently is going to. So, I mean, we can't when you include. So we're talking about keeping up with the next years. I don't know how it's going to look. I mean, Oakland, Gavin Frey. Y'all want to talk? How big? Never played, but okay, they got a guy.
Not important.
Troy got Toledo cornerback. Okay. I'm just saying things are different every day. So it's hard to say, hey, we need to do this because now our kids are going to be enjoying it more so than we're enjoying college football right this second. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know what's best.
No one does. Nobody can interpret where the world will go. Like, and anybody that has a suggestion, oh, this is going to ruin this is going to ruin that. I don't know that for sure. I know that football is as strong as it's ever been as far as watchability and sheer minutes consumed. So I happen to think I don't think the NFL's shrinking. I don't think the NFL becoming a worse product. And frankly, if I were the NBA, I am a little concerned about when these guys are making $100 million a year. Are we going to get maximum effort? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that football is in a pretty strong position to continue to be our national pastime as far as its most popular sport ranking in our communities. And I don't think college football is going anywhere. I think, if anything, having a postseason format that people can grasp and comprehend is going to draw more people in. That's been the biggest holdup with college football, and I've said this for years. I strongly and will continue to believe this. The biggest problem with college football forever is that nobody understood how was structured. And you can tell. And by the way, ask the most diehard college football fan if they can explain the playoff process. Not for the record. So now, with it being a little conceivable, hey, if I make it in the top 4 of my league, I'm in. Hey, I make it in the top 2 of my league, I'm in. Now, with it being a real postseason format that is recognizable across all sports, I think we have a real chance of creating some momentum and becoming more popular in the near term.
I don't think there's any doubt. Portion of college football needs to be repaired. We will begin to discuss that part and hear what some SEC coaches are saying about it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome in the morning, 8:53, 945 each and every morning, and tell you to enable the jock skill and listen.
Alabama's largest GMC dealership, and they have the largest discounts and the best service. Thank you to all the amazing people of Alabama that have helped make them number one again. They also have that used car supercenter, so if you want to go up there, get a vehicle, whatever your budget is, they can find a solution for you. I was talking with my buddy this weekend. He bought Smith. It's like the deals are just unbelievable. Like, I'm never not going to shop there. I said, I know. That's why I've bought 3 vehicles from Bill Smith Buick GMC, and I'll buy my 4th, my 5th, my 6th. It's going to be an indefinite relationship because of the experience that I've had. 75% of their business repeat customers because you have a better experience when you shop at Bill Smith's. Go get yourself a GMC Sierra 2025 1500 Denali Ultimate. These are the nicest trucks on the road. They're so nice. It's like a luxury vehicle, but with the utility of a truck. $86,805 is the list price. You can get it for $15,000 off the sticker. That means you're getting that vehicle for under $72,000 at $71,805. It's deals like that, man. You just won't find them anywhere else. That's why they sell more than anybody else. That's why they're the GMC Dealer of the Year 5 years in a row, the national champion of GMC dealers. Take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
He says that Mac and Cube. How does D2 do teams to work? Are we overthinking it? Who won it?
Are you asking us or Pete? Or
Who is it?
Couldn't tell you.
But it works.
South Dakota State. North Dakota State.
That's SCS.
But it works. Give me those in. You said it works. Does it?
Didn't West
Is it
Alabama?
I'm just asking.
Wow.
North Alabama.
I
did.
love. FCS got figured out. Tell me the teams that were in. Tell me who won it.
I'm gonna guess Mary Hardin Baylor. They ran back in 2015 to about 2020.
You were not there in 2020.
No, I'm just saying like they were continuing to win after I
I was
left.
gonna say, I know you're trying to like skew younger, but like you don't even try. You did not graduate in 2020.
It's 2018.
Nah.
Yeah, that was 2 years removed.
Yeah, but
North
pre-COVID's
Central
different.
this year.
Oh man, Mount Union.
By the way, you're back to Illinois because they lost it the year before, won it the year before that, lost it the year before that, won it the year before that.
Is it bad that I didn't know that they were a juggernaut? It works for them.
It does. But
Yeah.
But all on D3 football regular season games.
Only
Fair enough.
you want to take a guess who won it last year?
D3 or D2?
D3.
I have no clue.
Cortland.
What?
SUNY Cortland?
Coland. All right, welcome. It is.
Well, Wes and the guys have been great. They were out again this past weekend, just finishing up a few things around the house. It's just amazing how good they are at so many different things. I mean, I'd call Wes and the guys for pretty much anything. I mean, it's like, all right, hey, I got an issue with my electrical. Hey, I got an issue with my plumbing. I got an issue with my HVAC. They can do all three. And it's great luxury to know I have to call just one number and I can get pretty much anything finished around my house. That's why Wes and the guys highly recommend their incredible service. Plus, you know it's going to be hot here coming up. The last thing you want is your AC unit to go on the blink here as things start to get a little bit warmer in the southern months. So make sure, or in the summer months. So make sure you give them a shout today. And remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
Joe with The Athletic, and also can hear him on 102.5 The Game in Nashville, joining us on the Higginbotham High. Forth at SEC meetings of what people think or what people want. News that have come out of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I not really. It's like you're kind of just trying to follow the winds of change, so to speak, which is usually transmitted through Greg Sankey end of day. And I will say that most of yesterday, I was pessimistic and just dreading. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just completely out on the 4 auto bids plan, this Big Ten generated plan, and the play-in games that go with it. So I was almost resigned to, like, they're actually going to, like, go along with this. And then hearing Sankey say, you know, why isn't the 5 and 11 a viable option? I liked hearing that. I mean, to me, that indicated, no, just pump the brakes. It's not a sure thing. And it does seem to me, guys, like there's a little bit of a coach AD split. You know, I've talked to ADs in the SEC and Big Ten about this, about the auto bids. And it's like, yeah, how ridiculous it might look to people. And I'm all about competition. But if I know every year in my budget that I'm getting those 4, that helps me a lot. And these ADs, as we know, are scrambling now with trying to figure everything out and trying to keep their non-revenue sports. And the coaches, being competitors. I mean, if you're a competitor, you can't like this idea, right? You can't. And so on the coach side of, yeah, SEC is going to get their teams in. The Big Ten, the league that would benefit from this if they went to it. So that's a rambling non-answer to your question, but I think I did feel like, I guess if it's not really news, but it's an indication that maybe they're wavering a little bit on going along with this Big Ten thing.
Well, looking at Commissioner Sankey and where he's at, as far as kind of the guy that almost is always front-facing as it relates to bigger issues in college athletics, why is it that he is the one when the Big Ten is every bit as culpable to the change and the format and all this other stuff? Why is it that Greg Sankey's almost always the one that's, in the crosshairs with the media when there's a lot of others that are also in play when it comes to these decisions that are being made?
No, it's a great point, a great question, Greg, and I agree. And look, some of it is circumstance. The SEC does this every year, and the Big Ten doesn't really have a comparable. And I know they had meetings out west last week, and I think maybe Tony Petitti spoke once, but there was like nobody out there covering it. This is a huge media thing. And look, I think that Greg Sankey lessons every day. So it's going to be 4 straight days. He's going to talk today, and he's going to talk tomorrow too. So, I mean, I think he likes talking media to some extent and explaining things, right? But you're right. He's cast as a villain by a lot of people. And since I want to hear from Tony Petitti, because it's his stupid plan that everybody's talking about and is considering. And again, it props up the Big Ten. The SEC is going to have teams I understand what happened last year. And I think that's a huge part of all this discussion is what happened last year with the teams that got left out in favor of SMU and Indiana. But, to me, the selection committee, I mean, you can make strength of schedule more important. You can do things with the selection auto bids. to me it's a terrible idea. But again, that's the Big Ten because they don't have 4 or 5 are worth being in the playoff. The SEC will. So I'm with you. I want to hear Tony Petitti defend this plan because, of course, now out there talking about collusion. I think the backlash, we're seeing indications of it, but if this were actually to be pushed through or attempted to be pushed through, I think the backlash is way more than some people understand.
It's interesting to think about that backlash and maybe where us on the Higginbotham Hotline. He is attending the SEC meetings down in Destin. The transfer portal, a topic of conversation with every coach that comes. Thank you, everybody else who feels like they see a real light at the end of the limit up with an acceptable solution for what the portal will be in the future.
That's a good question. Not really. I mean, obviously Kirby Smart spent a lot of time, talking about that, and then he went on Paul Feinbaum talked about it more, and there's no question. I mean, he said it's the biggest issue. Forget all this other stuff. It's the biggest issue. Now, other people, who are not coaches may not agree with that, but it's a huge issue. And I mean, hearing Kirby, he's like, look, I'm told. I think he said, like, I'm told you can't make these complaints from the yacht. He made good points, of course, about the school calendar, the different if you have the obviously for teams that are still playing and all the things that have been complained about for a while. And then he's like, I don't even know who's making the decision or when or how or so. It's light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if I've heard a lot of that. I mean, it's like with everything. It's just kind of throwing your ideas out there and then hoping it goes your way.
It does feel like there's so many people that are weighing in. In your eyes, who do you think should have the biggest place at the table as it relates to the structure of the postseason, the amount of games played, the criteria necessary to decide which teams are going to make the postseason, all sorts of stuff? Like, who should be the loudest advocate? Should it be coaches? Should it be administrators, presidents? Should it be an outside third-party authority? Who do you think should be in charge of this?
Man, but that's another. Look, I think that ideally, all those people you mentioned have some input, and ideally, the conference commissioners, who of course work for the various groups within their conferences, can come together, actually work together, as opposed to last week you've got the ACC and Big. He's making sure they're saying that this is for the good of the game. Some other things may not be. And then Greg Sankey taking umbrage with that clearly with his Monday comments. I mean, you could almost see the smoke come out of his ears. So, I mean, look, the people who are sport don't work together, haven't worked together. That's why we are where we are. But, I mean, I think coaches should have say, but also some of what coaches also are going to – they're more inclined to not – play the 9th SEC game and not, have more good games because they know what it does to their teams, right? So, like, I just feel like it should be input from the various parties and an actual conversation. And frankly, the presidents who have the most power, the least knowledge. You can tell that in some of their public comments through these things. But so I don't have a great answer for you, Greg, other than I just can we have some – can it be more working together? Can people get on the same page? I mean, I'm not that.
What's the latest on this legislation down from what you hear at people at SEC meetings? This was supposed to happen, 2 months ago? And this was supposed to be done. What's the latest on where we stand as far as a potential new, governing football?
Okay, I thought you were talking about the settlement because that's another thing that we're sitting here waiting on too. Yeah, I haven't heard much about that. There's been the last couple of days about, if we can get this congressional, we need them to come in and weigh in and help out, and obviously that's been a long thing here. But yeah, there's really, it's just it's a waiting game on the settlement. Everybody thinks I mean, they're at the half-inch line right now, but still that hasn't. And so now everybody's waiting to implement their plans, and even when they can start implementing their plans, there's so many questions about how so many things are going to work, like walk-ons, things like that. And we're sitting here almost in June, and you can't even have to make sure it goes through. So it's it's been chaos in college sports for a while. Time in particular seems to me especially just sensitive and uncertain on so many fronts.
What about the settlement? Going back to that, any new news on where that is? Expect some sort of, I guess, final judgment?
Yeah, I mean, how many times in the last few weeks has it been like, okay, it looks like this is it now. It looks like this is it now. And, obviously going back and forth on the walk-on thing, going back and forth on grandfathering in kids, how that's going to look. I think it's close. I think it's soon, but yeah, no one has any strong conviction on that. So, it's so much that you're waiting on. Meanwhile, here in Destin talking through such huge decisions in terms of the overall format of the sport. So it's quite a week. And I don't expect it. I mean, usually these meetings end and everybody's kind of like, well, we had good discussions and, we'll see. I mean, how many of these have we talked about the 8 to 9 game possibility? So I don't think we're going to have anything definitive, but also, the next two Sankey addresses in particular should at least give us an idea of where things are leaning.
Yep, you're right. It is massive, Joe. We really appreciate the time. Great stuff. Enjoy. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Joe on the Higginbotham Hot on Twitter at Joe Rexroad. RODE. Hear him on 102.5 The Game in Nashville, as well as writing for The Athletic, covering college football. More for a lot of different people at SEC meetings. What they have to say, we'll discuss it next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic. John and some things happen on Ocean's floor. If there's issues with your flooring, though, Greg, who should you call?
That would be our friends at Shannara Flooring. They do a great job, and Fu has built this company on a foundation of trust and integrity. They're going to come out to your house. They're going to be respectful of your home. Everyone knows that replacing floors is no joke. It's a very, very intense procedure, but I can promise you Fu and his guys and his team will do the very best that they can possibly do in making sure that your home looks 10 times better when they leave than when they arrive. You're going to be very grateful to the experience that you have. They also have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring by Shaw in stock today. This is that kid-proof, pet-proof, waterproof flooring that adds value to your home or business. It's ideal for kitchens, laundry rooms, bathrooms, really anywhere in the house. It's going to make it even better. You can get 12 months financing with approved credit. So if you're thinking about making some changes to your floors, call Call Fu. Call them today at 205-518-6423 or go online at fuandyou.com.
All right, so let's go quickly to patient on hold wants to talk college football playoff format. Domer, what's on your mind?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Okay, so one thing, and me and Greg's kind of going back and forth on this. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I would say, Greg, me and you have a different perspective on college football and what makes college football actually good. I want us to kind of look at it this way. College football is like art, okay? It was never meant to be something that was corporate packaged and sealed. It was art, and it's just like any other form of art. It's like a musician. A musician's making art and writing songs, and he's created something that's unique, and people love it, and they come to the shows. And then a little sleazy little manager comes in, a little lawyer. Let's start making music to make money. That's what we need to do. So we're forgetting about the art, what made it unique. The quirkiness of college football, people dressed up like trees as mascots, and buffaloes running out on field, and leprechauns as mascots. The quirkiness that made college football great for 150 years. Let's let the lawyers come in and the corporate world and the ESPN, and let's turn it into making money. Just like an artist who was a painter. He loved painting. People enjoyed his art. And then somebody comes and said, hey, I'm painting pictures. Not worth as much. Do you think you can start painting pictures like this? They're worth more money. And so what we've done is, every decision we're making now, it's not about the truth. We are one by one destroying. And then USC, Notre Dame built the sport. It's okay. But they'll make more money in the Big Ten. Oh, the Pac-12 was had great sports, was there for 150 years, had great programs, had multiple, a great Olympic sports. They were competing with other. Oh, let's just destroy that conference. And let's make kids that run track go and have to go to Ohio State for a track meet and sacrifice their academics. Oh, well, academics. Oh, that doesn't matter. Those aren't important anymore. This is all about making money. What you do, you unique. People in this part of the country, I may be a Notre Dame fan, but I'm a Southern old country boy. We love college football. We've always loved college football. It's because it was neat. We like it more than NFL. We like college pros. We like college basketball more than NBA. Not because it's cleaner, not because it's worth more, not because they have a better playoff system. Everybody knows college football for 150 years. It wasn't always about who the one national champion was. It was general. And we are losing what made the sport great, why we fell in love with it. And we're going to look back one day and we're going to say, why did we do this? Lawyers and corporate America got rich, and we lost what we loved.
I appreciate the call, Domer. I didn't catch all of the connection wasn't great there, so I apologize. But I think there are reports that are going to go away. One last week. Sounds like Lincoln Riley doesn't want to play Notre Dame anymore. So, I don't think Lincoln Riley. Who do you blame for that? Fox, NBC, the B. The blame for that. That one coach. I don't know who to blame for it. It's not making our sport better, but I mean, it's just what some people want. So it's not just all where TV and conference standpoint.
I think Domer brings up some interesting points, but he compares college football to art. And I'm fine with that. I like the comparison. But just because the Beatles sell out and all of a sudden start, going on international tours and their music becomes universally synonymous with a movement doesn't mean that all of a sudden the Beatles are terrible. Like, just because Taylor Swift went from bubblegum pop country to now selling out stadium-wide tours doesn't mean that her music is now bad. Now, it's not my cup of tea, but I don't think anyone's losing their mind about Morgan Wallen selling out. He's got popular. Like, sometimes stop the train. Like, college football time, guys, was mismanaged. Let's just be real. And it's not because that were in charge at the time. It was just kind of a mom and pop operation. It was not big business, but the product was so good that it ultimately became big business. Like, for McDonald's was really good in California, and then Ray Kroc came in and turned it into a monstrosity. You know what? Doesn't mean McDonald's better. There was upside. And now college football is recognizing the upside and opportunity that exist because of just how good the sport is. So because you, Domer, liked the quirky mascots and and the fun traditions, and when you score a touchdown at A&M, you kiss your date, and when you have Ralphie Buffalo running onto the field, like, that's great. But it doesn't mean, like, you can still like those things, and you can still like college football for those things. But you cannot disregard the fact that, this thing is growing to a point where it's getting too big. Everyone likes the underground artist, okay? Everyone does. And everyone likes finding the artist and the musician before they become really popular. But once they become really popular, it doesn't mean that they stink. It just means that people now widely acknowledge the quality that this musician or artist is putting out, so it is becoming more celebrated by more people, and thus, yes, will we lose a few of the people that don't like the sellouts? Sure, that's fine, but we're a whole lot of other people that are going to love the sport because they're finally going to be introduced to a sport that they can recognize here in a new era.
What?
I don't know. I think they're all still there.
That there's a couple that have been altered and changed, removed, but college football program's mascot has been taken away, and that tradition been killed. And that Ben, right? You were there. Did you see him?
I'm trying to think if I saw him. God's honest truth, I don't believe I did. Doesn't mean he wasn't there.
Maybe they took him away. And that's
I just wasn't paying attention. Like, I don't remember. I did like 6 Notre Dame games, and I know sure he was. I just don't remember seeing him.
I don't know which ones have been taken away. But Pete who has a playoff with some sort of seeding, and D1 is still clear style system.
Not anymore.
But what is the what rated in D2 this year? Who should have been? We don't know how mad certain coaches were. They didn't get in because we don't. So, example, I don't even know why, or who should have, or who didn't, or who maybe wanted to, or thought. It just can't be a viable option when I've had this presented to me. I'm not going to allow the people presenting it don't know what happened, and neither do I. It's just not real. You can't sit there and say, why not? I'm really sure what took place. It's up right now for the New Balance loafer sneakers.
Your algorithm, bud. They spoke to you.
Yep.
Never a doubt.
Yep.
The all whites are 328. The classic gray actual New Balance sneakers are 120. We never got.
That's because I don't feel like $328 is worth spending on. We can maybe pull some money for that. I'm good for 20.
He'd wear them. We know that.
Of course he would. No doubt.
If you missed it, New Balance has a pair of sneaker/loafers that are about as hybrid can get.
Yes.
Like
correct.
Like straddle sneaker/loafer. And
another tough look. Tough look. Real tough.
They're not acceptable in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
No.
So
cannot encourage anyone wearing those.
Yeah, not going to take place. All right. 95-69, you want to get in. We will talk transfer portal, what some of the coaches had to say about it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right. Look in the morning. It's 9:30, Wednesday, May 28th. Transfer portal at SEC meetings as well. I mentioned Oklahoma. Gavin Frakes. I got 6'4", 220.
No tape?
Not a stat, not a tape, nothing. But
Tapeless?
he's there. Oklahoma's got him. Ole Miss safety Shamar portal. Some basketball portal news. Yaxel Ford has announced that he will pull his name out of the draft. You have until tonight to finish that. So he'll play for Michigan next year. And PJ, who we saw battle against UAB multiple times last year, has committed to Kansas State. So that's some portal news in college hoops as well. The SEC has half baseball regionals. They're going to host Georgia, Auburn, Texas, Tennessee, Vandy, and Ole Miss. All third time in the last 4. Tommy Tuberville announced he's running for governor, Greg. Does he win? Yes, no, right now.
I would need to do some due diligence on that. I feel like Kay Ivey's been there for a long time, so I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like that was a little bit of a shot, but
it wasn't. In what way would that be a shot? I just know she's been governor for as long as I can remember. I feel like it's been like 8 years or something. It's been a while. I don't know.
Now other folks that are beginning to float Bruce Pearl's name for Senate.
Oh boy!
Apparently, Burgess Everett is saying that he wants to throw out Bruce's name for Senate.
Aha!
I don't think you could do both. Not today's portal landscape, unless you're recruiting a lot of kids from the D.C. metro area.
Kay Ivey's been governor for just over 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah. April of
As long
2017.
as Greg's been alive.
No, as long as I've been living in Alabama. So, pretty long time.
All right, transfer portal, big portion of the car down in Destin. Kirby Smart has an idea of what he feels like needs to change. This courtesy of the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Every for I think the timing of the because it affects so many things. We have become a little bit more the December, January portal. There's also an April portal. And will it be a one portal window? Will it be 2 portal window? And if it's one portal, when will it fall? That's become a really critical decision because it's going to affect people's cap, your cap space, and when that falls. Academic calendars and how it affects every school differently. And we've gone through that. A lot of us have learned to navigate. And to be honest with you, in defense of the players, they want to go to a new school in January if they're leaving. They want an opportunity to go somewhere in January. To possibly hold kids to April, I don't know by the student athletes.
Your thoughts on that one, G-Mac? Could that work? Could that be possible?
I know that he's absolutely, suggesting what's best for the student athlete. Absolutely, the players want to get there in January. It gives you more time to lock down a spot. 100%. But is that what's best for college football in the long term? Is that what's best for the long-term development of these players? That's what I think we got to answer the question. It's like, okay, yeah, I know all the players want to go now, but they might go and not like what they find, and then they ultimately might go and get back in the portal a second time. So I think if we're going to window, I'm great with that. We just got to decide when it is. I just don't think we need 2. 1 is fine without penalty one time, but having multiple transfer portal windows in which you can transfer without penalty is a problem. And it's created leverage points for the student athlete, which I'm sure they love, but it's bad for roster management. It's also bad for the finances that are required now to get those student athletes on campus.
It's going to be.
There's got to be some concessions that the athletes have to make.
No, I think you would follow that up. Prefer a 10-day portal. Elko discussing about the times that kids choose to enter the portal. Usually right at the end of the season or right after practice has concluded, saying the frustrations that come with that as far as how roster and where you think your team is, and then all of a sudden it's different, it's gone, and you take all that practice time and it's essentially wasted. We've talked about wasted reps with certain guys, certain players, but think about from a coaching perspective of 2-3 portal right at the end of spring ball, and they got 90% of your second team reps, or they split reps with a first teamer all spring. Now have to play. They just got robbed of hundreds for development to be ready to help your football team, and they're not going to be able. So I don't know what the exact answer is. Shortening it, the window, the availability to an extent, or you're going to get sued. So I don't, and that, until this, Greg, what can college football to limit portal entry? If you try to tell guys they can't leave and go.
I wish I could help you understand that a little better, because I certainly don't have the answers. If I'm going to be completely honest, I don't have the answers. I've suggested forever that the portal would best be open from May 1st through May 31st. That, to me, is the best time to do it. Why? Because it would re-emphasize high school recruiting, because the high school players can arrive in January. Right now, high school players are completely put on the back burner in favor of a guy that might be 21 or 22 that's on his third school in 4 years. I think that high school recruiting is the lifeblood of our process as a sport, and it's just not being utilized the way it once was. The portal was originally intended to allow guys to transfer without their school getting involved, and to allow guys to seek other opportunities, and really, frankly, from the school's perspective, it was utilized as a way to backfill your roster. So if you're a little light on numbers, hey, you can take a mature guy that's played a little football before so you can plug and play. That was really what it was intended to do. Now, that are comprised almost exclusively of transfer portal players, which is fine, but that wasn't the intended use of the portal. So May 31st or May 1st to May 31st would be ideal. You have an entire month to decide. You get to go through spring ball with your team from the year before, so you can see how you might factor into future plans. It might allow cooler heads to prevail. I don't think guys would make as many emotional decisions at that point, and it would basically center around the academic calendar. Imagine that. You are committed, and you must go through an entire academic calendar year in the fall and the spring semester, and then if you don't like where you're at, then you have freedom to go elsewhere.
There are some solutions that seem to make sense, others that don't. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, what it's going to look like. But the topic of conversation down in Sandestin, one I wanted to bring up was a point from Blake Toppenmeyer discussing the college, Greg, and where on a certain side of where going as far as automatic bids, SEC, Big Ten. Blake took a little bit of a different approach. I'll tell you what he said and what he sense, or could there be any truth to it, next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. I want to discuss maybe a different on a format that could be maybe taken into consideration, but something that's not being taken into account on if the SEC were to get 4 automatic bids in. Could it be what's better? Most people 4 that's for the league, correct? Would you agree with that?
I think so.
You think that's the best way that it could go for the South?
I think that's likely going to be where it ends up, and I think that's a fairly adequate way of. That's minimum. Remember, that's a minimum of 4 teams.
Well, yeah, you're that Blake Toppenmeyer was going. I'm going to let you hear what he had to say on Paul Fine in a moment, but first I'm going to tell you about your CBD store. Your CBD store is something that I know you've taken into consideration because you've heard us talking about it. Broad spectrum gummies that deliver an uplifting effect, good start, extra energy, that extra boost in the morning. You need a better night's sleep. They have products that can help at your CBD store. Different extracts and plants that they work hard to find the ones that work best and study the different effects that they have. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. If it's arthritis or anxiety, skincare, gut health from your CBD store, they have answers to all your ailments. They make your day and your daily routine easy. Or CBD store. Check out Highway by the Cage in Cleaver and Trustville just off 459. Your CBD store where good health hits home. I think if you asked most SEC fans for automatic bids, that Feinbaum show had a different SEC fans need to take into consideration.
This idea of multiple AQs, lopsided numbers. You know, this originated from the Big Ten's camp. I think the Big Ten is the one that wants this idea of, you know, they would call it the 4 + 4 + 2 + 2 + 1, with 4 AQs for the Big Ten and the SEC. But started as a Big Ten idea, has gained some support from athletic directors, having that security of automatic bids. What's interesting is I don't think the SEC needs this model. And in fact, in some ways, I think this model that was floated by the Big Ten would hamstring the SEC in ways that, say, a 16-team, all-at-large format would not hamstring the conference. If you think about it, the format that's being discussed here, this AQ format, the SEC would be restricted from 9 of the 16 bids. This is the big bad about. It's strange to me that the SEC would jump on board with a format in which they're restricted from access to 9 of the 16 bids. That's puzzling to me, and it makes me think, like, what's changed just in the last few years? Because once upon a ago, Greg Sankey was vocal in saying he most preferred a playoff model in which all large bids. Now, in just a few short years, we're talking about the majority of bids potentially being awarded via an auto bid process.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 8. But Blake says you could be caught 9 teams playoff if you agree to this.
I mean, let's be realistic. I think best case scenario for the SEC would be to get 5 teams in. Like, best case scenario. Now, in the 4-team tournament that existed prior to last year, the SEC regularly had 2 teams in the field, which accounted for half the playoff spots. That means that, in theory, in a 16-team league, the likelihood of 8 SEC teams getting in is real. I, however, don't think that's likely. I just think the league will cannibalize itself too much to the point in which you're going to have 8 teams in the field. I just don't see it that way. But I do think 5, maybe 6 is absolutely feasible. But at worst case scenario, you'll never have less than 4. You'll never have less than 25% of the field in this scenario. That's, I think, a pretty good solution, all considered, to have 25% of the field. And then in reality, when we fast forward a couple rounds, you're probably going to have 2 or 3 teams in the final. You might have as many as 4 teams in the Elite 8, obviously using basketball terms, but how advance those teams beyond that first round, I think, is probably more beneficial to the league than just getting them access in the first place.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people don't discuss the portion of how many more teams could there be, and could you be denying yourself an extra spot? It sounds a little bit outrageous. It is realistic, and it's still there when you were talking about potentially costing yourself extra spots. Leagues and other teams, need 1, 2, 4 spots. That in the end, and that goes back to those offshoot seasons. Those of, well, how much better could for the SEC is that worth or to in guarantee that you do the other side of those off. I don't. It's an interesting discussion because I would most people lie on that. Do you think that the SEC has a better chance of getting 4 more consistent basis or less than 4 in on a more consistent basis? Where would you fall on that?
More often than not, if the criteria stays the same, I think the SEC will be in a tough spot to guarantee at least 4. Because I think the likelihood of going 9-3 in the SEC is much higher than that of going 9-3 in the ACC. I think the likelihood of going 10-2 or 11-1 in the ACC is probably pretty dang good. So I can see a scenario where Miami, I can see a scenario where Clemson are mainstays almost every year in the college football playoff. And then in an off year where an SMU gets hot or North Carolina gets hot, what have you, you might be in a pretty good spot. The Big Ten, there is no middle class in the Big Ten. You have the 4 teams at the top, then you have some really, really bad teams and a bunch of teams that are just okay. You know, I don't know if the depth at the top is comparable to that of the SEC. The SEC, you have 7 or 8 teams that go in it this year. The Big Ten, you probably have 2. Okay, maybe 3. So that's just a little bit different. So I just think the SEC, I think guaranteeing 4 for them is definitely going to allow them to sleep a little better at night. Do you run the risk of the possible upside? Sure, but I think the upside still exists in a 16-team format where 5 or 6 SEC teams could make the field.
Let me take down the road just a little bit here for you. Is this great? Having an understanding that he's probably going to have to go to a 9-game schedule at some point, knowing and then getting more than 4 does become imminently more difficult. And so thus you guarantee yourself knowing that your schedule strength is about to.
Well, here's the benefit that the SEC stands for going to the 9-game schedule. 1, more money. Okay, you get more money for those 8 extra games. Those 8 extra games will provide more scheduling flexibility, more rivalries to be sustained. All that, I think, can stand to benefit the SEC long term. That's beneficial, too. I think guaranteeing the 4 gives you the opportunity to add 2 marquee games to the calendar, that being the 3 versus 6 and the 4 versus 5. That will all 3 be played on championship weekend as quote. So that of significant benefit. So I think that there are some angles here that the 9-game conference schedule and those 2 extra games, all by making sure it's a 4-team guarantee, can be extremely lucrative for the league. So that's why they're considering it, and that's why I think that's where we'll ultimately end up.
It's going to be forward. I'm intrigued to see looking, and a lot of folks are going to be mad at it. A lot of folks are going to love it. A lot of folks are going to be happy about it. One he is asking for, be it more guaranteed spots, this is more autonomy. This is Greg Sankey discussing that from the SEC meetings in Destin.
I've shared with the decision-making working group, I have people in my room asking, why are we still in the NCAA? There's inherent value, but how does the association continue to adapt? How do those whose frustration level is at its highest, how maybe are some of those frustrations mitigated? How are some of those frustrations dealt with? I think we would authority and autonomy granted under the NCAA heading. We'd like to come together for championships. We think that's a critical, important, broad part of college sports. I think there can be more independence in decision making. We talked about an autonomy division that would be under the NCAA heading clearly. It would be linked, but you'd have more authority and autonomy.
So that kind of hinted around with Joe Rex, and that was this governing body and some around, I guess that's what I'll reference them as, sort of hint around that maybe the thought of has been floated, has been discussed, is being discussed with some of the power conferences.
I think there's only a matter the NCAA ceases to exist. Now, it already has very little say when it comes to football. So remember, football is separate. The NCAA right now basically serves as it just sets playoffs for basketball, men and women's, baseball, men and women, softball, baseball for men. Like they basically just set up playoffs for them, and you rock and roll. That's kind of all the NCAA does now. Like there used to be a little bit of authority when it came to doing the right thing and governance, but they don't really say much anymore. I mean, the autonomy almost exclusively lies with the SEC and with the Big Ten. They have veto power. They can basically say we got this, and the other leagues basically had to allow for that because the SEC and the Big Ten can take their ball and go elsewhere if they want to. So I think it's only a matter of time. It's just a matter of when. But it's probably long-term for college athletics that they won't have that invisible hand hanging over them and trying to govern when they really don't have any say.
Yeah, it's something people have considered, have thought of. There have been very few moments behind it. There was some hard that conversation taking place, those discussions happening as far hey, guess what? Leaving. We might be headed out. And now it feels like we have a little bit of that. We have a little bit of reality to that. This could be going. This could be something, and maybe finding a different way to go with this. And I don't know you about it. We think this is an, but on the likes of Greg alluding to the fact that a real taking place of why are we still in bed?
Well, I mean, I think because they don't want to, one, open themselves up to a challenge in court. I don't know if the NCAA would even do that, or if they could. And two, because it's protecting tradition a little bit. I do think that Greg Sankey, and many people don't acknowledge this, but I do think he acknowledges the importance of tradition. But a lot of people don't seem to think so.
Well, I wouldn't harder than me to answer this question, but I would also wonder how antitrust came into play there. If the Big Ten, because I do know there, or how that operates. I'm not intelligent enough to know that. So maybe we need to get somebody on.
I don't know anybody that is, but this is a highly complex issue. Highly complex.
Great show. You can go to film.com, Apple, and you can tune in that way. Any from the show. We'll be back tomorrow.